Hello, hello, hello. It took me about 3 weeks to get reacquainted with the new meta, but I think I've got everything pretty much solved for the most part. And I would like to re-break down the classes for this patch because I guess this is just my life now. Alright, so this is everything you will need to know about Veteran. We'll talk about weapons and curios and all this stuff at the end. We're going to break down the talent tree because this is obviously what's changed the most. So, I'll try to cover what's changed, just generally with the meta and with the nodes. This will probably be a long video, so sit back and enjoy. Or just throw it in another monitor. Exhilarating Takedown is actually pretty good now. Replenish 15% toughness and gain 10% toughness damage reduction for 8 seconds on ranged weak spot kill. Stacks 3 times. Stacks decay 1 at a time. So, if you've been around the block, you will remember this passive was absolutely terrible for the entire game's life, because the stacks used to not decay 1 at a time. So now it's about 21 seconds of some form of toughness damage reduction with just one shot of the plasma gun, or revolver, or whatever. That's actually pretty good, and this is worth taking now. The problem is the nodes below it are still pretty bad, but we'll talk about those when we get there. So, honestly, though, Exhilarating Takedown is good enough that if you somehow have a spare point when finishing off your build, and you do actually plan on spending some excess ammo for horde clear, it's not bad. Shooting once, getting 30% damage reduction, and getting a shit ton of your toughness back. Let's put it this way. It went from being you would literally never take this to it is now an actually competitive option. What are some problems that still remain with this? Well, if you need to save your ammo because you're literally the only source of gunner sniping, then this node is terrible. You cannot make use of this node the way the game is trying to get you to use it. So with Volley Adept and Longshot being right here, they want this to be a reward for like counter sniping elites and gunners and whatnot. Well, like everything in Darktide, that's not how you actually use this. The way you actually use this is you pull out a gun like the plasma gun or the revolver or some gun with high pierce. You shoot a crowd of enemies one time at around head height, and you instantly proc it all the way up to full. That is how you actually use this. You don't like try to snipe a special from back here and hopefully hit them in the head and get a little benefit. Confirmed kill is still just as good as ever. It has not changed. Replenish 10% toughness on a leader specialist enemy kill instantly, and a further 20% toughness over 10 seconds. This, fun fact, actually stacks. And because it stacks, that means that if you kill, say, a horde of 5 Ragers with a grenade, you get 5 stacks of that 20% toughness over 10 seconds. So 2% toughness a second, stacked like 5-10 times, is 20% toughness a second at times. Not bad at all. It's always been a competitive option, but unfortunately, both of these are still outclassed by Out for Blood. Out for Blood gives you, it's worded so poorly. Your kills replenish an additional 5% toughness. Is not what this does at all. You may read this and think, oh, well, my melee kills restore 1% toughness. Replenish an additional 5% of the 1% that my melee kills restore is only like 1.5% toughness. No, Out for Blood should say, any kill restores 5% toughness, because that's what this node actually does. And you can throw one grenade into one horde, or shoot one plasma gun shot into one horde, or one charged power, not even power, just one charged M1 with the power sword, kill like 7 guys in the horde, and get like 70% of your toughness back. It's really rather absurd, and honestly, I don't need to open the social menu or options. Jesus Christ, Tanner, get with the program. Creature spawner, specialist, and if you'll allow me to show you, if I Poxwalker Bomber and I take the node, you can see here how it's going to take a second to kill him because no talents. But if you just look, if we just shoot the plasma gun, you see how I'm getting these huge jumps up in toughness? Yeah, this is just little shitty guys in the Psychanium. Now imagine you're fighting a horde in like Auric Maelstrom or whatever, and you do that one time into like 20 guys. Yeah, that bard jumps all the way up to full instantly. Volley Adept is okay, but it's just... So, this talent tree rework, it focused on removing tax nodes for the most part, which is good. It's opened up build making quite a lot. It's something I've complained about because it killed so many nodes. This row is still affected by the point tax, though with all of these now being competitive and viable options, they're affected to a much lesser degree than they used to be. Volley Adept is okay, but 30% reload speed is usually not that important. So here's the Plasma Gun's normal reload for reference, and this is the reload with Volley Adept. Now, the best keystone weapon specialist prevents you from needing to reload this weapon pretty much ever, but we'll talk about that in a second, and this is with Volley Adept. It's a noticeable increase. Problem is, you will never be reloading the plasma gun more than maybe once per game, twice at most if you are not playing with weapon specialist. So, you know, this is more for weapons like las guns, but the thing is, this is the catch-22 with this. Weapons that need to reload a lot, like las guns or auto rifles, already have really fast reloads and just don't need any speed increase. Weapons like the bolter or the plasma gun that do need this speed increase, one, have multiple animation cancels you could abuse, or two, you just aren't reloading them enough to really justify this. Longshot has gotten buffed pretty substantially, but it's still not good. You deal 10% range damage to targets within 12.5 meters, and up to 25% range damage to targets further away. So, 10% range damage within 12.5 meters. You can actually go back to the last veteran breakdown that I posted. This is like exactly word for word how I said this should be changed. Almost down to the exact distance too. Because, like, I said it should just always give you at least the minimum bonus. Because engagements in this game are, you know, enemies are always walking close towards you. So, here's something I would like to showcase, though. A plasma gun with maniac damage on it and max 30 distance away cannot one-shot to the body of Flamer with Longshot. Why? Seriously, you're 4 damage off. Fat Chart, can you please just make this an invisible 25.5% just so things like the plasma gun and the bolter can cleanly one-shot at max distance with this without any other form of assistance? It feels really bad to take this with the purpose of sniping specialists and gunners, and then literally none of your breakpoints change. Because if you were capable of one-shotting without Longshot, well, then you don't need Longshot. And if Longshot doesn't push you into the one-shot breakpoint, why are you taking Longshot? You still need to take another form to supplement its damage. Just take the thing that supplements its damage without the drawback of needing to be 30 meters away and one shot and do it more consistently. It's still just an awkward node. Really, I feel like this should be like up to 50% if I'm being honest with you. Because the only times you care to have Longshot are so you can consistently one-tap things that are harassing you with gunshots and no one else on your team can deal with it. The thing that Fat Shark seems to not understand is Exhilarating Takedown is the weakest of the 3 starter nodes. So really, if you were going to take Longshot, you would be taking it kind of like this. You'd be doing something like this. But no one really does that because it's just... It's not bad. It's just depriving you of the best node. And these are also pretty good, but we'll talk about those in a second. This node is awful. Please don't ever take it. When you kill an enemy with a ranged attack, allies within 8 meters of the target replenish 15% toughness and receive 15% to all base damage for 3 seconds. Every time I have tried this node in a real game, absolutely nobody even recognized I was using it. It is so low impact, it does so little, and the worst part is it doesn't even make sense. Let's say you have an Arbites controlling the front line. Why are you shooting the front line that the Arbites is already controlling? As a veteran, you really should be focused more on shooting gunners and preventing specialists and elites from, like, pinning your teammates down. Shooting the things that your teammates are already engaged with is just not, it's dumb. Like, I'm just going to be completely blunt with you. It's just a dumb waste of time. Because if a Zealot or Arbites or Ogren are already fighting things in melee, they already have the situation under control. Please don't shoot the little trash mobs that they need to constantly restore their toughness. I mean, think about it. You're kind of griefing in a way. Arbites needs to be surrounded by a lot of enemies to basically be unkillable. So if he's controlling the front line and you plasma gun away like the entire horde that he's using for his toughness restore while he's fighting the Crusher Pack or whatever that is following the horde, you know, I guarantee you, the entire time you're trying to use covering fire, that guy is literally gritting his teeth going like, "Veteran, please just shoot the fucking gunners!" Because you're taking away their forms of toughness restore and not stopping the things that they're incapable of fighting back against. I really do think this node is rather quite toxic. It's one of those things where the more you think about it, honestly, it should just... This whole node can just kind of use a rework, I'll be honest with you. It's very awkward. It doesn't really support any playstyle that Veteran has. And 3 seconds of 15% damage, by the time a teammate even recognizes they have this active, it's already gone. So it's like, okay, you know, think about, again, the Arbites, because he's just the default frontliner now. The dude has like 7 nodes that are plus 15% damage. Do you really think he's going to notice another one? Honestly, this should be 15% attack speed. Hey, Fat Shark, if you want to make this node actually helpful to frontliners, make this 15% attack speed and cleave. Because do you know 2 things that Zealot, Ogren, and Arbites, like, will never complain about having more of? It's cleave and attack speed. Because cleave lets them hit more of the pack, attack speed lets them just control better. Make this 5 seconds, make it attack speed, keep the toughness restore, and add a stamina restore to it. And then maybe it will be worth taking. One Motion was already widely considered at the high end of the veteran player base to be the best second row passive, and they doubled its effect. So, for reference, this is how fast you weapon swap between 2 of Veteran's best weapons without One Motion. You can see this is a little bit brutal. Now we take One Motion, and, I mean, it's like doubled the time we can swap. This might not seem like a big deal, but let's say you're sniping gunners. Oh shit, a dog's running up. Well, did you see how quickly you can, like, immediately do this now? With One Motion being like this, you now have a near instant control over your melee weapon the literal millisecond you pull this out. And control is the most... what makes Darktide so good is the fact that you have control over everything all the time. So long animations that lock you out of being able to control the game are generally the times when you're going to take the most damage and die the most. So something that makes it more snappy and returns that control to you is always going to be strong. It doesn't help that arguably the current meta way to play Veteran is to be swapping your weapons a bunch to make use of all of his new buffs, but, you know. Tactical Reload is bad for the same reason Volley Adept is bad, but it has a much easier proc condition. What happens if you're using Volley Adept? Say you're using Volley Adept with the revolver, and you don't get a crit, so it takes like 3 body shots to kill an elite, and they just don't die. You only have 2 bullets, and they don't crit. Well, now you don't get Volley Adept. Tactical Reload is only 5%. Right, think about this. Out for Blood is almost objectively better than Exhilarating Takedown, at least by just a little bit, because this is only for a weak spot ranged kill. This is just any kill on anything, so it's just the most versatile. Tactical Reload is only 5% slower of a bonus than Volley Adept, and, like, it's just, you have control, it's active 100% of the time. And Fat Shark knows this is a better activation condition than Volley Adept because they took 25% of its effect away. Very strange. Close Order Drill is nice. I like that this is here. Everyone was already always going to take this. Like, you'd always want to have this, so there's no reason to not. Alright, let's talk grenades. because the grenade meta has changed a lot, and hell, it's literally changed in between my time coming back and now with the nerf to plasma gunners. So let's talk about frag grenades. Frag grenades are completely unchanged. They still, like, wipe hordes immediately with one throw. They still can destroy armor packs. And that's what's really the important thing. Though I will say, here's what the deal with frags now. Crushers now have 6,500 health, as opposed to the 3,500 they used to have, which means you now need a red stim and most of your damage increase is active. So you need Uncanny 5, you need a damage stim, and you need all 3 grenades to kill a crusher pack. And you still need to, like, activate some other damage buffs as well. Which means frags have lost a lot of utility in terms of clearing armor packs. Not that they can't do it or anything, they're still really fucking good at it. They just struggle where they never used to. Because now, Maulers have the same HP value as Crushers used to the last time we talked about this, and Crushers now have double the HP value that they used to. Which means ticking them down with just one bleed dot that can't even be overcapped is not the best way to deal with them anymore. Armor is also far more prevalent. Shredders still are the best overall grenade because they are like A- tier, more like a B+ tier. If I had to grade them, you know, welcome to Darktide University. If I had to grade them, I'd give them like a B+ at killing armor, like an S grade at killing the horde, and an S grade for crowd control. The problem is, cracks got buffed, and armor is just the most dangerous thing in the game now. So the way they made Havoc 2.0 harder than Havoc 1.0 is they no longer spam 15 million shooter guys at you. Now they just spam packs of like 20 crushers at you. Oh yeah, they also have boss triggers. So in old Havoc, you might have fought 1, maybe 2 bosses per run. And it would be like, you fight 40% melee guys, or like 60 to 70% shooter guys. Well, now it's like you're fighting like 5 bosses per run, and like 35% of everything you fight is a crusher or a mauler or an armored scab rager. So cracks being able to one-shot multiple of these guys, though you can't just do it with a regular crack anymore, as you can see. You need something else, like some kind of crack enhancement perk, which we'll talk about. But cracks now being able to deal with large, because now that there's a critical mass of armor, cracks are super valuable. Throw a crack on a crusher that's coming through a choke point with like 5 other crushers and then shout so they're all knocked together. I will routinely get like 3-4 crusher kills per crack throw on Havoc, which is just ridiculous when you think about it. These also really help with bosses, which are the other big problem now in Havoc. So throwing a crack for like 15,000 damage at a boss, remember how I used to make fun of that because it was just never a big deal? Well, turns out when there's 3 to 4 bosses on the screen at the same time, yeah. Spending your grenades to just, you know, even if they do nothing but just delete one of those bosses is actually a great deal of help. So the parameters of what's good has changed, and as a result, I kind of just think in Havoc, cracks are just the best grenade now, which is quite a strange reality. Another thing that's a strange reality is smoke grenades have found their place. So they aren't in the Psychanium for some reason, but there's a new enemy that Fat Shark has called both a specialist and an elite, so nobody really knows what it actually is. Thank you, Fat Shark. Anyway, called the Plasma Gunner. The Plasma Gunner basically immediately destroys your toughness, gold toughness included, like old Fire used to. They also destroy the Psyker Bubble in a few shots, and they generally spawn in packs of like anywhere from 3 to 10. Though after the nerf, they don't spawn in big packs anywhere near as much as they used to. In fact, in most of my Havoc runs, they've only spawned in groups of 2 or 3 most of the time. But anyway, with the massive increase in armor... excuse me. With the massive uptick in armor, Psychers vastly prefer to run Venting Shriek to help deal with those insanely dense hordes that have super high HP pools. So think about this scenario. The amount of gunned enemies has gone way down. But the amount of like massively more tanky, there's more of these guys, and each one of these guys now requires the damage of what used to be 2 of them to kill. So a pack of 20 Crushers now is as hard to clear as a pack of 40 Crushers used to be. And the game literally couldn't even handle spawning 40 Crushers, so you never had to deal with anything like that. Oh my god, sorry. What an awful time to have a coughing fit. Anyway, so a lot of Psychers, especially the good ones, just don't want to run bubble anymore. There's less gunners to counter, there's now a hard counter to the bubble, and they really can't afford to give up the damage. So do you know what that means? Smoke grenades are actually on the menu. Smoke grenades also got a very big increase to their consistency overall, which means they're just, you know... There's also this mod now, which completely removes their effect, shows you when they're about to wear off, and honestly, I don't know why smoke grenades don't just work like this. Smoke grenades got a bit of an increase to their consistency with this last patch. They also, with this mod, now work exactly how they should have always worked. PC only, by the way. And they're really good now, like, at doing what they're supposed to do. Let's say you go into a room and there's just a lot of gunners waiting for you across a hallway. Smoking it out so you can run through the hallway to get in melee with them is legitimately viable. It also helps that with how strong the Arbites is, just kind of running into melee is like the best way to handle gunners now. And smokes, like, the only thing that can really stop an Arbites is like a Reaper, a Plasma Gunner, or just a wall of elite gunners. But yeah. Veteran grenades now are more about circumstance. Does your team completely lack boss damage? Then go crack grenades. Does your team have decent boss damage or whatever? Do you just need help with the armor packs? Go crack grenades. Does your team have no crowd control and cannot deal with the horde for some reason? Take shredders. Do you have no defense versus gunners and the only thing that can stop your death march is a room of 10 plasma gunners? Take smokes just to be safe. And because they no longer require you to spend points to get into them and points to get out of them, because this is an amazing node that you pretty much always want. So even if you take smokes, which have the worst row below them, you can still get into all the stuff that you realistically want to get into. These two don't have that problem because you're always going to want this, this, maybe this, and this, or whatever. So, yeah, you can take whatever you want. The other thing that helps cracks is this node right below, 15 toughness, better than 5% movement speed overall, and much better than 10% reload speed. So cracks have the best node below them, and they have the best effects. So this area got moved and changed a lot. Superiority complex is still the same. It should still pretty much always be taken. 15% base damage to elites is like the most important thing to a veteran. So hey, do you remember how I said Longshot couldn't kill guys at max range? Yeah, well, if we take... Well, that's a specialist, so that's not really going to count. Kind of hard to showcase because I didn't shoot an elite, I was shooting at specialists. But if we take superiority complex and Longshot, you see we get pretty close to one-shotting these guys. Oh yeah, they also got a health increase to 1700, up from 1300, which it used to be. So that's like maybe one use case for Longshot, trying to one-shot armored gunners, but whatever. Iron Will is still Iron Will. This is very important because you are above 75% toughness all the time. Especially if you take two of these instead of just out for blood. If you take 2, God forbid 3 of these. Here, watch this. You want to see something cool? Look at this. So we just like kill these guys. I mean, look at that. Just killing those guys with those like killing 2 specialists with headshots and these 3 nodes was enough to get us like 160 toughness immediately. Very, very powerful ability. Then you have gold toughness counting as an overcap, which extends this radius massively. If you take Iron Will and Exhilarating Takedown and have gold toughness with multiple forms of immediately shooting it back up to full, very, very, very hard for Veteran to die. Honestly, I kind of think Veteran with Takedown, Confirmed Kill, Out for Blood, Iron Will, and Gold Toughness, I honestly kind of think he's like rivaling Ogren and Arbides for survivability. He's not in the same tier, obviously. He's one tier below those two, but definitely capable of being one of the tankiest classes in the game by far. I can't believe we're living in a patch where the Veteran is legitimately just harder to kill than the Zealot. Oh, Zealot, what did they do to you? Where did it go so wrong? 10% melee attack speed is a node in everyone's skill tree, and it is a node every build should take pretty much without exception. 10% attack speed is just that. For every 10 attacks, you get to do one for free. That's like, remember, the second largest part of increasing damage, other than just flat out increasing the damage, is increasing the speed at which the damage intervals happen. If any of you are Warframe players out there, you know that it is a constant balance between critting, base damage, and attack speed. And there's always a time when you can add 1,000% damage, but if you would instead add 500% damage and like 30% attack speed, you end up out-damaging someone who only adds 1,000% damage and nothing else. Trench Fighter Drill and pretty much all the 10% melee attack speed nodes are just that. Field Improv works the same way that it always does. It's just Field Improv. So, fun fact about Field Improvisation. Let's say you're dead. The Veteran holding the cargo box? The Veteran holding the box. Sorry, no one's going to get that reference. The Veteran holding the box is dead. Here is something that I will repeat every single time I talk about this node in any video for the rest of my life. Field Improv affects all players. It is a team-wide perk. If I have it and you place this box down, your box gets the effect. If I am dead and you place a box, the box still gets the effect. The only time Field Improv does not activate for other people, or just anyone really, is if the Veteran has just died fully and it says rescue in like 10 seconds and he's literally not loaded on the map, then it's not active. But as soon as he becomes rescuable and he's like tied up in the corner or whatever, this is back to being active. Now, the actual effect of this is incredibly strong. Because, one, Medpacks healing faster legitimately helps Ogrins and Arbides a lot, but corruption. Things like Tox Gas, things like Rotten Armor have massively increased the amount of corruption damage you take. So having a hard counter to that is really good. Honestly, you can just kind of run Field Improv. You don't even need the Zealot aura in New Havoc most of the time, which, you know, further has kicked Zealot out of the meta. And Ogren's Box Grenade is so goddamn good now that giving the Ogren multiple of them back for free can legit... Same with, like, Arbides Shock Mines. Arbides Shock Mines... Think about it like this. If the Arbides hits the ammo box 1 time, he gets 45 seconds of a pause button for the entire encounter. That is really goddamn strong. Like, that is really absurdly powerful. Serrated Blade is now really good for things like the dueling sword or the knife or whatever. If your weapon is not the greatest, I don't know if I have a knife saved. I might have deleted it. Okay, cool. But if I just pull this out here with Serrated Blade, everyone knows that the knife is not the greatest at horde clear. But applying 2 stacks of bleed when you get the... This is not a good demonstration at all, because I don't have things. So this is mostly good as an extra damage source for armor. This is what I should have just done from the start to show this off. Because when your weapon attacks fast and can stack this quickly, it's just a free 200 source of damage plus uncanny. Weapons with uncanny benefit a lot from this. So remember, these guys are... Okay, so these guys have the same health pools as Crushers used to. With none of my combat buffs active, literally just Serrated Blade and M1 spam with Uncanny, I was able to get almost 1,000 DPS with the knife on what used to be a Crusher's HP pool and armor type. That is like unheard of before. So Serrated Blade, if your weapon does very little damage, I wish I should have preset up a horde for this to try and give you an example. But if your weapon isn't the greatest at dealing with trash mobs, then just doing this helps a lot. It also helps if you're going to use Lacerate instead of Flesh Terror for some reason, because, you know, you're getting 50% more of that effect just for free. Get back in the fight is terrible. Stun immunity, slow immunity for 6 seconds is bad on a 20-second cooldown. Stamina restore when your toughness is broken, it's just all bad. You can use this with the one blessing where when you're over 50% stamina, you immediately, like, there is a synergy to never get shot, but you have to use mediocre weapons. Here, I guess we'll talk about it. The Recon las guns, and just a lot of weapons actually, have a perk where you can do this, or rather a blessing. You can take Strip Down, ranged attack immunity while sprinting with over whatever stamina. Sorry. You take that blessing, take Duck and Dive, which immediately restores stamina upon dodging a ranged hit. Take Get Back in the Fight. So if you're sprinting, you run out of stamina or whatever. So if you're sprinting and get your toughness broken by gunners, you won't take any HP damage because you immediately get to the threshold where you start dodging, and your dodge immediately restores stamina, which creates an endless loop of never getting shot by gunners. This is more of a meme than anything else, but hey, if gunners are really that much of a problem, and you are, you know, you're really dedicated to never dying to Reapers again, then I guess it's just a cool thing worth knowing about. Opening salvo is kind of bad as well. The first 20% ammo after a reload has 10% range critical hit chance. This used to be 10% ammo, by the way. They buffed it to 20%. But this is only somewhat useful on, again, the Recon las gun. Problem is, the Recon las gun already has like a 20% crit chance. And if you have dodged around even just a little bit and proc Reciprocity, that 20% crit chance that you see this thing doing, well, 17 to be exact, that goes up by 20 to 25%. So when you have 40% crit chance with this gun and the crits don't take ammo, what's the difference from going to like 45 or whatever percent crit chance up to like 55% for the first, you know, the first, yeah, like 30 to 40 bullets? It's just not that big of a deal. Considering how this weapon already has unlimited ammo on Shock Trooper builds without taking this, it just kind of makes this a waste of points. I'll definitely say the general meta is to do this. Generally, you know, we're constructing like the veteran meta build as we go, in case you haven't noticed. But generally, people will do this just so we always have field improv. Catch Your Breath got buffed and is really good now, I'm not going to lie. When you haven't been the target of a melee attack for 5 seconds, you start to replenish 5% toughness per second. This is not entirely true and a little jank, and is more to do with the melee slot system. See my video on that and why coherency toughness regen is bad. This is more or less if you haven't had someone occupy a slot in 5 seconds, you start to replenish 5% toughness per second. It's not, like, it's okay. This is mostly good for when you're fighting gunners. And when you're fighting gunners, it's pretty fine. It's an okay extra layer of survivability when you are, you know, counter-gunnering the gunner guys. It's okay. And you're forced to take it anyway. I can't really show this because it's a bunch of complicated math. Fire Team is the worst aura in the game. It does not even give you 5% damage. It gives you 3% damage. This is a little known fact, but here at Darktide University, we like to get, this will be on the test. How do buffs stack in this game? Well, auras are like at the start of the damage calculation for some reason. And for some reason, Fire Team in particular, it gives you that damage to the base damage or whatever is how it was explained to me. You get the damage to the base, and then all your other damage buffs apply. It's not just additive amongst the pool for some reason. Which means this 5% turns into like 3.7%, which is literally nothing. Even if this was 5%, it was nothing. Honestly, Fat Shark, just make this 10% and make it a real 10%. It would at least be okay. Remember, Veteran is supposed to be the team leader. It's okay. Honestly, you could make this like 12.5%. Then it would be like decent. Let me put it to you this way. If this was 10% damage, it would be usable if you already had someone playing Survivalist. If this was 12.5%, it would be maybe something you consider in certain builds. If this were 15%, like it was just a full-on damage node, but in the form of an aura, then you might be considering taking it over Survivalist. I'm talking about Survivalist last for a reason. Close and kill is just bad. So 5% movement speed is about... So here's a fun fact. If you check out the dueling sword, part of what makes this weapon so powerful is the mobility on it. The actual sprint speed difference between this weapon and something like, say, a shovel. See, sprint speed, 0.09 at 60% versus 0.80. Now, this is off of a base number. That's its modifier. So it's like a 0.8 modifier to a base number. Well, the gap between most of these weapons here. Let me run a little test with you. I'm just going to sprint with the dueling sword without that aura. Okay, so we're going to start right here, and you're going to see how long it takes us to sprint this, like, 10 meters. Okay, now we're going to sprint back with a different weapon, but with close and kill, which we had there, so there should be some perceptible difference. Okay, I fucked my test all up here. Sorry. So, without close and kill, this is the dueling sword. It's pretty... Just get this, like, in your head. Now, this is the shovel with close and kill, and you can see that it's pretty damn hard to tell the difference. If I had the speedometer mod, which I really should have installed for this, I meant to, then you'll see that we are very similar in speed, almost exactly. And the dueling sword with stamina can outrun pretty much anything in the game. So close and kill, it's just toxic. When it's good, it's making it so enemies literally can't hit you with weapons that normally wouldn't get that benefit. And when it's not doing that, it's doing literally nothing. No one ever uses this aura outside of, like, speedrunning. Survivalist is Veteran's only real aura. This either does nothing or potentially breaks the game. But that's really rare. Like, I'm trying to think of the list of weapons it does that for, and it's very small. Like, I think Devil's Claw Sword, maybe? It's very small. So, this aura is, like, 90% of the time complete useless garbage. This aura, literally, because of how scaling and stuff works, is literally not useful for anything ever. And Survivalist breaks the game. So, replenish 1% ammo for you and allies in coherency when any of you kill an elite or specialist, with a 5-second cooldown. This is just broken. So, look at, like, say, the Recon Lasgun. We're just going to kill an elite here. We have 613 ammo. Goes up to 622. Now, when you have combat buffs and crits not consuming ammo, you actually generally gain more ammo than you spend killing things. Especially if you're going to let the Infernus dot handle the last, like, 30% of damage. And it's the same thing with the plasma gun. You get 2 ammo back for a survivalist kill with the plasma gun, and you spent 3 bullets on a shot. So if you one-shot things, you get like a 75% refund. It's ridiculous. Survivalist is another thing. Basically, the smaller the ammo pool, the more Survivalist gets messed up. Look at, like, the Ogren with his grenade launcher gun. He can, like, kill 3 elites and get, like, a bullet or 2 back when he only had to spend a bullet in the first place. It's quite nutty. The reason why Survivalist is so unbelievably overpowered... I'm sorry, I'm just getting flashbangs. There's this person on Reddit who tries to make the argument that Survivalist isn't actually good at all because, like, people end missions with ammo. I'm sorry, I just got, like, mentally flashbanged by stupidity, basically. But anyway, Survivalist gives everyone on your team the equivalence of about, like, 3 to 4-ish red ammo packs, which is ridiculous. In Havoc, that's about 50% extra ammo for the entire team. That means everyone can shoot pretty freely and not have to think about it. This is super broken because the ammo economy of Havoc is meant to be, do not shoot your gun unless it is absolutely critical to killing an important threat. Well, Survivalist just kind of removes that. In fact, I'm able to play games of Havoc where I barely have to pick up ammo, maybe like 2 or 3 red ammo packs, or just 1 hit of the ammo box, and just being conservative and letting Survivalist build me back up, I'm good. Which is just an insane, insane thing for a node to do. Especially considering it does that for your teammates as well. Okay, so, grenade stuff. This got huge, massive, unbelievable buffs. Like, insane levels of buffs. And honestly, I think the meta builds take all 3 of these now. Which is crazy, considering how bad most of them used to be. So, carrying 1 extra grenade is really nice. It's just nice. It makes it so your ammo box hits with field improv are more impactful. Most importantly, the nades you pick up. So, where this node really shines is when you have to fight, say, a boss. And there's an ammo box around. So, mod options, boss. Let me just give you an example of this. Let's say there's a burgle, right? Alright, so you just throw these at him. Now, mind you, in Havoc, these bosses have much higher HP. So, that actually killed him. Now, in Havoc, 1, we probably don't get the 2 double procs like that. And 2, in Havoc, they have 80,000 HP. So, imagine that guy still has 20,000 HP, but we just ran out of grenades. Well, then you pick them up, and you throw 2 more, and you just killed a full 80,000 HP boss in Havoc just like that, without getting into melee or really spending anything, and you still have 2 grenades left over as opposed to just 1. It's nice. And 20% grenades is only as impactful as the amount of grenades that you're throwing. If you throw 100 grenades, it will average out to be 20 extra grenades. 20 extra grenades is just enough to when grenade gen starts to feel a little bit imbalanced. So you can view this as like a 3rd grenade gen. Grenades solve really bad situations. The hardest rooms and RNG setups in the game can be solved with grenades. So more of them is always better than less of them. Demo stockpile is replenish 1 grenades every 60 seconds. And now we have to go back to talking about crack grenades. Probably should have covered this when I brought up crack grenades, but hey, live and learn. You used to only be able to carry 2 cracks, and Grenadier used to be behind like Serrated Blade, which used to only apply 1 stack of bleed. I don't actually think it was behind Serrated Blade, now that I'm thinking about it. The point is, Grenadier was behind an awful node. You would have to spend an extra point to take... You'd have to spend a point on a node you really didn't want that did nothing for your build, to then spend a point on Grenadier, which meant you were spending 2 talent points to get 1 of these. Also, carry an extra grenade and 20% chance to throw a grenade used to be 2 separate skills. They have rolled them both into 1, and they removed the talent point cost to take this, which is great. So, cracks used to only let you have 2 grenades. Why is this a problem? Well, if I take demo stockpile, there's this node called demolition team. You have a 5% chance to replenish a grenade. This can replenish anywhere from 25 on the most shortest end, all the way up to, in some runs I've had, 40 grenades on just insanely good RNG runs in Havoc. Especially now that there's never spawned more elites and specialists, but I'll talk about that later. So when you only have 2 grenades, if you throw one, your timer starts ticking. So you throw 2 grenades and you only have 1 left over, this timer starts ticking. Well, if you're taking this and you get this to proc, and you go from 1 to 2 grenades, you're back at the cap, this stops. It doesn't like pause. You just lose this. So if you're 40 seconds in, that's effectively 1 grenade you just lost. So not only did having 2 grenades make it so cracks were just way less versatile and way worse at killing bosses, they were also stepping on the toes of your grenade generation. Because you always want to be missing at least 2 grenades 100% of the time on Veteran. This means that when you can only hold 2 grenades, you basically have to sit at 0 grenades, which means you can never use them when you actually need them. So you had to give up some grenade generation, which was just like, well, fuck me, I guess. If you were going to take cracks, it was actually meta to not take demolition stockpile and just take demo team and literally let RNGesus take the wheel. But we aren't living in those days anymore. This also makes cracks a lot better when you consider that now that cracks can, not have to worry about cooldown, you are now throwing more cracks than ever. This is really what changed to make cracks the best grenades, is that they are now the things that cracks count. Okay, when I say the best grenades, I mean in Havoc specifically. Outside of Havoc, I still think frags are just overwhelmingly the best. See, this is what's hard, making darktide hard to talk about. Havoc 40, especially with the current rotation of modifiers, is just a completely different video game from everything else. Havoc 40 with these very specific modifiers doesn't play like anything else in Darktide or has ever existed in Darktide before. And in this very specific area, cracks are just overwhelmingly the best thing in the game. In Auric Maelstrom, frags are still just better because you're fighting, less armor. So when armor does appear, the frags can still bleed it out. It's more about CCing and just clearing a bunch of hordes. Anyway, because you get to throw more of them, this now does a lot. And Grenade Tinkerer. So, the thing about Grenade Tinkerer is this right here. With Grenade Tinkerer, you don't have to think. You can just cleanly one-shot a Crusher with them. That's really nice when one-shotting Crushers is like the make it or break it thing in New Havoc. So, I'm just thinking about if I want to talk about the other grenades of Grenade Tinkerer, because they really don't matter. The frag grenade radius increase is nice for Grenader Vet with the bolt pistol, but people are doing that less and less because, well, it just doesn't matter as much anymore because of cracks and Havoc. And Smoke's getting 100% duration is whatever. You'll still probably always take these with those, just for the simple fact that you are, like, throwing so many grenades now, and these nodes are all packed together. There's no reason not to take them. Basically, every vet is a Grenader Vet now, because the Grenade Vet package, you can take Field Improv. You probably should take Field Improv on just about every build. You can then take this and this for effectively free now, and you are always taking this anyways to get to this. Which means, like, every bit of grenade support other than the bolt pistol, you just kind of want to fit it into every build. This also helps a lot for bosses. Okay, let's talk Executioner Stance. This got buffed, but it really doesn't matter. This is still terrible. Like, No one is using this. This is exclusively for meme builds. I can honestly give you the breakdown on veteran ultimates in 5 seconds. Gold Toughness literally breaks every fundamental mechanic of the game. It stops toughness bleed through pucks, bursters, snipers, crusher overheads. It stops everything that would normally hurt you from being able to hurt you at all. You can still have 100% uptime on it and spam it on cooldown. Shout is still the best ultimate even without Gold Toughness. But giving Gold Toughness to 4 people in like 10 seconds with near 100% uptime fundamentally breaks what is dangerous and what is not dangerous in Darktide. And these other 2 ultimates could never hope to compete. There you go. That's veteran ultimates covered in 5 seconds. Precision strikes, now we're going to get in detail. Don't worry. So, Marksman's Focus gives you 25% range damage and ranged weak spot damage and 10% toughness a second and makes you massively accurate, and it stops you from getting suppressed. Fun fact, it has always stopped you from getting suppressed. That's not something that just changed this patch. It's just something they finally decided to mention for the first time in the entire game's lifespan. All that is cool, but let me just show you something. None of that shit actually matters. This is like the only place it matters, right here. See how that barely didn't one-shot? Well, if we activate this, now it does. What? Hold on, wait, I just did a live double take. Hold on, what? Okay, well that time it killed him. Okay, whatever. That guy just had literally Nurgle himself reached out to protect that guy, I guess. But yeah, if you just barely don't one-shot something, you can then take this to then, like, start one-shotting it. You know, if you fancy to do this. But that is so not valuable, especially considering you can already, you know, you see, I mean, look at that. We already one-shot this guy without the ultimate activated. And that was without any of this stuff. If we took precision strikes, literally, just get a crit and take precision strikes. And, I mean, look, even without a crit, we're almost at the point where even without a crit, we can one-shot. So if we just build our stuff up just a little bit, yeah, look. Without a crit, we can one-shot without the ultimate, without a crit. The only weapons that this, like, really helps are, like, DMRs like this. But these are, like, the worst weapons in the game still. They've been massively buffed, but you know what's really crazy? You see how this does 1100 damage? Watch this. I'm going to activate this ultimate. And now we just barely one-shot, which is nice. Except sometimes we actually don't. And it's, you know, that's cool. Oh, we don't even one-shot flamers without a crit. Yeah, see? Like, it doesn't... it's just awkward. What is going on here? The problem is it's just awkward, and it doesn't really do enough. Okay, Fat Shark. Well, I guess I'll just talk without the representation. You know, taxation without representation, something, something. It's just awkward. 25% damage and headshot damage is not impactful 90% of the time. You need to know of a very specific breakpoint. Like right there, look at that. That's so frustrating. Even with a crit, it's just barely not enough to barely not one-shot this guy. There's a very slim amount of weapons that this actually helps, and the weapons that it does help, it'll only let you one-shot like one type of enemy you weren't one-shotting before. So it barely affects anything, it barely affects any weapons, and the weapons it does affect, it barely helps them at all. Outlining enemies is terrible. I don't understand why you would want to do this, because the way you keep this ultimate going is by being the one to snipe things in this ultimate. But, like, if you're highlighting these for your teammates, they're stealing the kills that you need to keep the ultimate going for you. And I don't buy that shit of like, oh, well, it tells them when a trapper's running at them. You have wall hacks. Just shoot the trapper before they even see it. Like, what is the big deal? You've got wall hacks, my brother in Christ. This node is terrible. You're actively spending a point to make the ultimate worse. This is really good and something you should probably always take, because if you're taking this node, I presume you need it to help one-shot these guys consistently. So that's cool, I guess. And because kills make the, ability last longer, which that's really the biggest buff. Killing a highlighted enemy refreshes the duration of its bonuses for 5 seconds. So that used to be a point you would have to spend. They just took that and added it into the ability, which thank fuck they did, because oh my god, is this not, this is so much more usable. The problem is that the effect is so weak. It's so weak. I tried to make like a ranged cowboy meme build around this ability, and it was so terrible. You would have been better off using any of the other ultimates. This is without a doubt one of, I'm thinking, hold on, he's thinking, processing. It's worse than, this and the Ogren's like ranged ultimate, they are absolutely tied for the worst ability in all of Darktide. They're both borderline unviable in that they do literally nothing most of the time. This is just bad. Outlining Ogren's, captains, and monstrosities is just not important at all. Because if you read this, it says, when in range stance, you blah, 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 deal all that extra damage. But wait, notice you don't actually get any kind of a bonus for targeting the highlighted enemies. Which means highlighting Ogren's just limits the pool of things you can shoot to increase, the 90% of small gunners that you would be killing in this aren't doing anything for it. And if we look here, let me just put the plasma gun on, because who in their right mind is shooting Carapace without something like this? If we look, we do 829. And if we fully charge a shot, we do 2175. Well, I mean, you could just look. Our damage barely goes up. Here, let me do a fully charged shot. I mean, you see what I'm saying? It's just not impactful. Like, it just doesn't change anything. It doesn't even help versus bosses. So why would you want to mark Ogren's as opposed to marking all these guys? Because these guys are just free refreshes for this. Shout is insane. Shout CCs everything, instantly restores your toughness, instantly gives your teammates gold toughness. Duty and Honor is probably the single strongest ability modifier in the entire game. Giving them 50 gold toughness for 15 seconds. And the thing is, it doesn't just give them like a bar of gold toughness and once it's gone, it's gone. No, it just makes that your new toughness value. Seriously, if Duty and Honor just said, gave your teammates plus 50 toughness, and it wasn't gold, if it took your teammates from 200 to 250 toughness, it would still be one of the best ability modifiers in the game. It just wouldn't be literally game-breaking. So, gold toughness stops poxbursters from being able to damage you. It stops snipers from being able to damage you. It stops overheads from being able to damage your health bar. And things that restore a % of your toughness, like Out for Blood, just have a bigger pool to restore bigger numbers with. This also counts as like a phantom toughness bar for Iron Will. So you just get a bunch of free toughness for this to impact, which massively increases your effective health. I'm going to shout out Lord and Savior Telepots himself for this one, because Telepots was absolutely right. I was going to make my own video trashing gold toughness, saying it needs to be removed, but literally the week I was recording that, he made one of the best Darktide videos ever, saying gold toughness just needs to go, and it basically took everything I was going to say and just said it better. I still might do that, the slop must flow, as my good friend Mr. E would say. So it's just like, you will never make this game challenging while gold toughness is in the game. My first week back to this game, because of gold toughness spam and AoE dot like psyker spam, we were able to beat the hardest Havoc 40 possible. Literally the hardest piece of official content in any Tide game. Like, genuinely, probably even harder than Fortunes of War Cataclysm. Purple, Rotten Armor, Silo Cluster. Because the entire, like, opening first 10 minutes of that map has no cover, no choke points, no nothing. Very little room to kite, very little space to exist in. Every enemy's constantly regenerating, and every enemy blows up an area, denies you, and there's just 50 armored guys. It's rather ridiculous. Within 1 week of coming back to the game, I was able to clear that after 3 tries with the final team that we cleared it with. Only took us 3 tries. We had one teammate that we were trying to clear with that, you know, whatever. Point is, just gold toughness, like, I did not deserve that win, you know? And it's like 90% of the reason we were able to get that win and get it so quickly, because it, you know, after like 30 minutes of attempts with the final group, it was just because we added more gold toughness spam. We replaced one of our teammates with another person that was playing veteran instead of whatever he was doing, and we went from struggling for like an hour and a half to clearing it in 30 minutes. It was ridiculous. Only in death does duty end is one of the worst ability modifiers ever. Voice of Command revives knockdown allies within radius. Who cares, just run revive speed. But also reduces that radius by 33%. Okay, so if you didn't know this, by the way, you can hold F to see if people are in range of your ability. So this is a pretty good range. Knock everything back, have control over an area. Now if we take this, you can see just how much smaller this circle actually is. Because it's not a little bit. So look at this. I'm going to stand right in the middle here, and look. The circle went from touching that outer ring from in here to just barely reaching that ring. So this is something... Oh, and the cooldown is now 40 seconds. So the cooldown is now much, much, much longer. Putting it in line as like... as I think like the second longest cooldown in the game, because of that 50% increase to ability cooldown. So 50% increase of 30 seconds is 45 seconds. So it goes, there's like 2 abilities that, no, I'm sorry, there's one ability that's like a 90-second cooldown on the Ogren for some reason, but whatever. And then there's like 60-second cooldowns, then 45 seconds, then 30 seconds. And there's Scryer's Gaze at like 20 seconds. Stop buffing Scryer's Gaze. And so... something that's not immediately obvious is that the radius of a circle is not entirely its circumference. So what I mean by that is, if you see here, the difference in coverage reducing a circle's radius is like this exponential effect. 33% of this radius is not just like, oh, the circle's 33% smaller. No, it's like the entire... everything has shrunk by 33%. So do you see from right here to like here is what's getting reduced. So you're actually losing like half of your total circumference. You're losing like half of your coverage. It's way bigger than you think. So the ability takes longer to be used, loses so much of its coverage, just so you can revive people instantly. Well, did you know they just buffed revive speed so that now it affects all forms of downed ally? It affects rescues. It affects pulling people up. It gets them out of trapper nets faster. You revive them quicker. They also buffed the actual effectiveness of the perk so it's even stronger than before. Instantly reviving people in a radius has never been less impactful than it is right now, and it was already widely considered the worst node in the game. Ironically, if Shout's gonna keep gold toughness, you should probably just bake this into it and just make it like this. Because the biggest thing here is, look, being able to, like, double that area that you are instantly stunning makes Shout what it is. Alright, I'm sick of talking about Shout. This is another one of the worst abilities in the game. Not necessarily in terms of how strong it is. I actually think the ability is rather powerful, and that's the entire problem. Replenish all toughness and enter stealth. Stealth should not exist in Tide games. And I can show you why very, 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 very quickly. It's very simple, actually. So let's just despawn everything. And let's spawn a bunch of enemies. Okay. Well, this looks like a problem, right? Oh, sorry. You're not supposed to be here. So this looks like it's a problem. Yeah, there's all these guys coming at us. There's literally never going to be time when we're able to get any form of offense in here. Yoink. Okay, they are now, literally, they've been retardified and brain dead. And I could just walk away freely, and I can completely restart the encounter. So, like, that's the thing with stealth. Now, Zealot stealth is way more guilty of this, because it is like a 10-second cooldown. So, Infiltrate. Gives you all your toughness back like Shout. That's cool. 25% movement speed so you can ditch your team faster. Leaving stealth suppresses nearby enemies. It doesn't actually tell you what nearby means. Because, you know, that's something I need to do. So if we just grab regular shooters. Rifleman. Hey, buddy. You're supposed to be AI turned off. Cool. So, right. Let's see. How far away are you? 3 meters. That's about... You are not what I'm looking for. Get the hell out of here, Trapper. You're not in this class. Alright, so about 3 meters. About 5 meters. Like, that's like, what? Like 18-ish? 12? Yeah, 12 sounds about right. That's about 16. Alright, now we're gonna turn the invisibility off, and we're gonna go into this. And then we're just going to break stealth. And that guy got suppressed. So the suppression radius is about 7 meters. Sire Milk, get the hell out of my classroom. Anyway. So it's about 7 meters of suppression radius. While in stealth, and for 5 seconds afterwards, you have 30% damage. Who gives a shit? Genuinely? You know Shroudfield gets like 150-something% damage, right? This is also surrounded by some of the worst modifiers in the game. Infiltrate provides 50% toughness damage reduction. Great, love it, for 10 seconds. How long is that cooldown again? Oh yeah, 45 seconds with a 33% increase. Oh, so it has a like 60-second cooldown and 10 seconds of uptime. Right. This is, wow, this is useless. Yeah, seriously, this has, like, even if you spam this on cooldown, at best, it has, like, 15% uptime. Awful. The Zealot version gets, like, 40% uptime. Minus 90% threat for 10 seconds on leaving stealth. This is garbage. Wow, you like this? This is garbage. So this just means that unless you directly attack an enemy or literally stand in their face, they just will not aggro onto you for 10 seconds. This means that if you combine low profile, it's genius. Combine Infiltrate and low profile, and now for 15 whole seconds, your teammates get, you take none of the aggro off them. Which is huge, because in Havoc, the meta is to split the aggro. One person takes a quarter of the horde and pulls it off one way. Another person pulls it off another way. You can either try to CC the horde in a choke point and AoE them to death. Or everyone just plays something like Arbiter or Ogryn or Veteran or whatever. And they just, like, they just fucking pull that section of the horde off and deal with it themselves in small bite-sized chunks. And Overwatch is kind of mandatory to take. Your combat ability gains +1 charge, but 33% cooldown. So the reason why this is mandatory is +1 charge. You normally never want to add cooldown to your ability, but With +1 charge, don't think of it as adding extra cooldown. Think about it as you can use it while it's on cooldown and not have to think or worry. It just massively increases the amount of time. Look, let me put it to you this way. If this node existed on Shroudfield Zealot, you will literally never see them die. Because you can have one in the bank and one to freely use. It's hard to explain, but the ability to have it free use all the time and keep one charge for an absolute dire emergency just massively increases the amount of times you're comfortable using it. Doesn't matter because the ability is dog shit and shouldn't be in the game. Precision strikes is 30% damage to the head. Sort of. Alright, so watch this. Oh my god, I'm getting killed. This is what I get for trying to teach in the inner cities. Okay, so 1855 damage. And then we take precision strikes away. That was a crit, so it doesn't count. At least I think that was a crit. Maybe it wasn't. Right, okay. So, this is where we need to have a talk about what weak spot damage actually is. And keep this in mind. This one is your homework. The Arbites has a node just like this, but it's weak spot strength. Weak spot strength. So, think about this for a second, if you want something to compare this to. We go to 1855 from like 1730. Now, let's see what Marksman does. How much damage do you think Marksman is going to add? 2082. It's because weak spot strength is way stronger than weak spot damage. This is why you could use Marksman if you're going to go maximum spam shout, because you'll have decent enough uptime, and it is like a 10% damage increase over precision strikes. But weak spot damage, because of where it applies in the damage formula, is very similar to Fire Team. This 30% actually ends up being closer to like a 12-ish% damage increase. And by that same token, Marksman is just kind of okay. It's not really usable on these other two, but Shout plus Tactical Awareness plus CDR Curios, yeah, you can keep this up like 60% of the time. It's okay. Deadshot is only remotely usable with Tunnel Vision. 25% critical chance. Nice. 60% sway reduction while using your ranged weapons. Alt fire. Nice. But lose 0.1 stamina per second and additional 1 per shot. Well, that additional 1 per shot automatically excludes this from a lot of things. Sadly, that includes the DMRs most of the time. Because these DMRs just absolutely drain your stamina. Even the slower shooting ones, like the auto guns. Look at this. The only way you can even remotely try to use this node is if you're taking Marksman's Focus in the Stamina Restore, and even if you're doing that, it's still kind of bad. So it looks good on Horde Clear paper, but then you actually try to play the game, and, well, you know, reality is often disappointing. It's just, the stamina drain on aim is... This needs to be like 0.5 stamina per second, and just remove the stamina drain on shot. Honestly, Deadshot, I'm going to be honest with you, Deadshot should just be like, lose 0.5 stamina per second, and on headshot, gain 5 or 10% stamina. Deadshot should not punish you just for taking it. It should punish you... I mean, the icon is literally the guy, like, headshotting. Look, what does this art have to do? Hey, Fat Shark, Game Development University with Tanner Lindbergh. Fat Shark, take notes on this one. If the iconography of the ability has a skull on it, which implicates a headshot, and a crosshair on the head, you would presume that the node has something to do with headshots. But it actually has nothing to do with headshots. This node, basically, you should take this modifier right here, that in addition, weak spot kills restore 10% stamina. You should just apply that effect to this node and remove the additional 0.1 per shot. Because, like, it feels bad to get punished for shooting your gun. Deadshot should be a node where if you're constantly, you might say that would be really imbalanced. This node would be crazy if somebody was just getting a bunch of headshots. Remember, guys, that's the point of the passive tree. It's supposed to make you feel super strong when you're doing it right. Deadshot makes you feel, at best, like... The fact that Deadshot punishes you for clicking it, and you need to take another node to try and supplement its effect. But I mean, you could look, even if you try to supplement Deadshot's, like, downside, it still just doesn't work. Legitimately, just add 10% stamina restore, not on weak spot kill, but weak spot hit. That way you combo it with tunnel vision and you actually go stamina positive when using Deadshot. I don't see why that would be an issue. 25% crit chance isn't even like the end of the world, dude. Anyway. Fully loaded is nice. So look, we pick up 36 from this ammo tin with fully loaded. Without fully loaded, we pick up 29. So this is a 25% ammo pickup to your Survivalist restores, 25% ammo increase to your ammo pickups. Really, I know currently with the current vet tree, a lot of people advocate not taking this, but I'm going to be honest with you. If your responsibility is still to snipe specials and elites, you also have a responsibility to be ammo positive like all the time. And it's kind of hard to go ammo positive without fully loaded. I really wish Mr. E didn't put this idea in people's heads. Because, like, this is definitely the weakest node overall that you would get rid of if you have to. But, man, it's really rare that you have to get rid of this. Let's put it this way. If you're noticing that you need to start taking a bunch of ammo pickups on Veteran and Havoc, it's probably because you don't have fully loaded, which means you're getting less Survivalists back. And the ammo pickups you are taking are doing a lot less for you. On a gun like the plasma gun, by the way, this becomes insanely noticeable. Where, let me just spend a bunch of ammo. So you're picking up 26 on this tin with fully loaded, and you're picking up 21 without it. But most importantly, if we kill this guy, see how we only got... let me just reload just to make sure we're all on the same page here. See how we got 97? And then that time we didn't even get an ammo. And then that time we didn't get an ammo. And then we got up to 99. And then we got to 99. And then we got to 99. And then we got 2 ammo. So without, you know, fully loaded, you have to get like 2 or 3 kills to actually get that ammo back. Well, with fully loaded, you start jumping up by like 3. And then it's like every other kill you jump up by 1, then you jump up by 2. Fully loaded increases your Survivalist restores as well. So if you are noticing ammo problems, it's probably because you aren't taking this. Born Leader kind of sucks. Allies in Coherency replenish 20% of any toughness that you replenish, plus 50% Coherency Radius. So Coherency Radius is actually a really strong stat if every single person on the team is taking it. Then it actually becomes really freaking good. And allies replenish 20% of any toughness that you replenish. I just wish this actually was the case. It's just kind of not. Like, if you shout, let's say, right, let me spawn Poxburster. By the way, this node has literally changed every single patch. I'm not even joking with you. So, look at this. I just gained 240 toughness. Like, 20% of that going to the team would be like 60 toughness going to everyone. But that toughness restored, that doesn't count. But then a patch will happen like a month from now, and it will count. And then another patch will happen like 3 months later and it'll stop counting again. Born Leader is so buggy and so inconsistent. And even if literally every form of toughness restore affected it, and you're taking these 3 toughness nodes and shout, yes, then it would actually be pretty good. And for all I know, it could work like that currently, but it's very hard to actually test it and tell. It's just a very node. This node is awful. 20%. So, right. Fat Shark, we need to have a talk. 20% assist and revive speed. This patch just updated revive speed to be assist speed as well. So does this node now increase your assists and revives, which increasing revives also increase assists? So it now double dips on assists and gives you 40% to it? I don't know. There's no way to find out unless you go in game and test it. But this node is so terrible, why would you ever take it? I've never seen someone take this node in my entire life. Because 20% revive speed is just not that impactful. It's not worth 1 talent point, that's for damn sure. Movement and stun immunity with moving towards the knockdown or incapacitated ally is okay, I guess. This node is weird. There was a patch where if you were just looking in their direction and walking backwards, this would apply. And that actually gave you a pretty nice buffer in the solo situation to maybe save them. But anyway, they received 33% damage reduction for 5 seconds. Guys, Payday 2, please. This should be like 75% damage reduction, and it should be like for 15 seconds or something. This should just be the perk where you take this, and you know at least for most of the next fight, the guy's basically invincible. I just don't understand why we're stingy with this. 33% damage reduction is not that huge if they just died, and 5 seconds is basically, by the time they have regained control of their character, you're already like 3 seconds into the animation. So like what? I guess the literal only thing this does is stop them from dying to things like being revived in fire. But why would you even do that in the first place? This node is awful. It's building to fail. Demo team. You have a 5% chance to replenish a grenade when you or an ally kills an elite or specialist. You should always take this. In an Auric Maelstrom, it averages out to like 12 to 20 grenades. In Havoc, it averages out anywhere from like 25 to 40 maximum grenades now with the new modifiers and the new increase in melee elites. Literally, I just don't know what else to say about this. Get the scoreboard mod, combine every elite and specialist kill on the team, realize it's like 500, and at 5% chance, you can get anywhere from like 30 to like 50 goddamn grenades off this. Though not all of them will be in coherency, so some of it will be missed. This is actually really nice, by the way. This 15% melee damage boost. These are just okay, but 15% melee damage is sheesh levels of nice. Reciprocity. 5% critical hit chance for 8 seconds on successful dodge. Stacks 5 times. You're constantly dodging, be it ranged attacks when you slide, be it just dodging a sniper shot, be it dodging in melee. This is basically always active, giving you some increase in critical hit chance. 25% is better than a tier 4 blessing. So this is like adding 5 tier 4 perks to both of your guns or adding an extra tier 4 blessing to both of them. Take your pick. 15% close damage for 10 seconds on combat ability use. This used to be 5 seconds, by the way. It used to last for 5 seconds, which was terrible. Or maybe they took that one away. I remember there being a third red node here. Yeah, I think that basically it's just 15% damage is not a whole lot, as most classes have like 15% damage modifiers now. And 10 seconds is barely, like, it's just This is okay because it's 20%. 15% is underwhelming to say the least. Look, I don't know anyone that takes this. I'll be real with you. I'll be real with you, Chief. I don't know anyone that takes this shit. Duck and dive. More like Chuck's sucking, fuck, Sneeds, chucking, whatever. Look, man, this is bad. This isn't good anymore. Stamina on avoiding range attacks by dodging, sprinting, or sliding. Who cares? Stamina is dead. Crab Rave. Stamina is so not important in the current game's meta, I don't even know how to, like, begin describing it. And we're back. So tactical awareness needs to be taken in just about every build that isn't a joke meme build. If you're curious how this works, it's very simple. So look at how fast my cooldown is ticking, and now for the next 3 seconds, it's ticking down twice as fast. So basically, this just gives you 3 seconds of double cooldown. So 3 seconds of this stim's effect. And if you're curious, when you have this stim and this going, yeah, this cooldown is closer to, like, you know, it's closer to, like, look, at the end of the day, I haven't really noticed a difference in the amount of times I get to shout. I'm sure this is a nerf compared to just flat minus 6 seconds stacking on kills. But honestly, are you even killing a specialist every 3 seconds generally? Like, I don't really... You're not shouting less in critical times, let's put it this way. Because if you're still doing your job of sniping specialists, specialists are what make this game difficult. If there's no specialist, you really shouldn't be at that much of a risk of dying. What, there's a 20 Crusher Pack in front of you? Keep them stun locked forever with RBDs or Smite or whatever, and just dot them to death while everyone else slowly whittles them down with melee. You know, it's like when there's flamers and bombers and shit forcing you to, like, scatter, and the horde just pounces on someone. That's when you die. I haven't really noticed a difference in Shout's potential with this change, but it is definitely a nerf, I guess. Desperado is amazing. 10% melee critical hit chance. Honestly, this on its own would be good enough to be considered taking. I'm not going to lie to you. Because if you look, critical hit chance, a tier 4 perk is 5% critical hit chance. And hell, just holding the dueling sword with Desperado and that puts you at 25% critical hit chance. You proc Reciprocity up to full and you have 50% critical hit chance. I don't know why the view model is so crazy right now. That is not what I set that to be. I don't know what the deal with that is. It's supposed to be set like this weapon, where it's much closer and I don't see my arm clipping, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. What is important is that this is 10% and this is 25%, so that's 35% crit chance, 40% with the tier 4 perk, and 10% from your class. So you can make every other hit a critical, which you, like, that's ridiculous when you think about it. That single-handedly makes melee vet, like, a viable thing. Keep their heads down. Now that you kind of have to go... So here's the thing about keep your heads down. If you take this, you're forced into taking kill zone, which sucks. And unfortunately, lock and load is also not very good, nor is shock trooper. So really, this whole row is just kind of bad, but we'll talk about those more in depth. Thing is, this node used to just be like, you would spend 1 point to take this, to then take, like, demo team, to then take tactical awareness. So when it was in a spew of bad options, it was fine. It made sure the plasma gun guaranteed. Here, it made sure the plasma gun guaranteed. Like, you see how it staggers these guys? That stagger stops them from shooting. And then their full pussy mode mental breakdown stops them from shooting for a while. This node just kind of makes the plasma gun guarantee they enter this state, even if the shot's not anywhere near them. So, you know, when it was a mix of really bad nodes, this was just kind of the best of a bad row before. But now, like, I'd rather have stamina regen delay reduction or another 10% toughness damage reduction. I mean, think about it. You take this, get shout for a barrier, get iron will, and get this. This is 30%, this is 50%, here's another 10%. You know, there is a critical mass of damage reduction where it starts becoming really strong. Competitive Urge is... I'm not going to defend this node anymore. I still think there are times when this node can be pretty good. But in reality, the 2.5% chance, it's just not high enough. Honestly, I kind of wish... So for one, I wish you counted. I wish this buff would go on you and another teammate. And I wish it was like 5% chance. Then it would be really good. As it stands, it's just kind of bad. And now that it has to directly compete with 25 toughness, it's not take 25 toughness, then take this, or like some shit like Rending Strikes. You know, The fact that this node is here, I'm actually going to talk about this in the context of this row, because it's the same for this one, but this one, you'll, all right. Okay, I know how I want to approach this. So this is just bad, because even if you, with the uptime mod, you can see in a Havoc 40, this honestly only has like 20, 30-ish% uptime, which it either needs to be like 50% damage to justify that low uptime, or it just needs to like double or triple in its chance to activate. Rending strikes is awful. I'm sorry if you still believe this node is good, you're just wrong. So we're gonna just hit this guy. We need health bars. So 2981, 2124 without a crit. Then we take Rending Strikes. So 2124 whatever without a crit. 2167? What the fuck? This node is god awful, and unless someone shows you, well, okay. So look, unless someone directly shows you in their build, look, it literally adds nothing against Carapace, which is like the single most important thing. Here, let's take something that doesn't have great innate penetration like this axe. So 233 without Rending Strikes. That was a fucking crit. That doesn't count, you cheating cheater McCheater face. 281. Like, that's an okay damage increase, I guess. But, like, you see what I'm saying? It's just terrible. It's nothing. It doesn't change anything. 10% Rending is objectively not a lot of damage versus Carapace, which is, like, the most important thing. So someone, if they're telling you to take this node, they need to in-depth explain what the hell it's actually doing. Do not ever accept the explanation, oh, well, so we take Rending Strikes for some additional rending, then we take Bring It Down so we get to the keystone. Don't ever accept that shit. Because there's a lot of people with this node and rending and armor in general, they have no fucking idea what rending does. They just have absolutely no idea. Even if you have Uncanny Strike and you're at max rending, this only gives you 2.5% extra damage. Like from the rending overflow. It's garbage. It is terrible. Honestly, they could put this back up to 25%, I feel like. And then it would be something everyone tries to go out of their way to take, which isn't necessarily a problem. The problem I have with Rending Strikes is this motherfucker right here is literally 2.4 times stronger per stack. Okay, so let me, if you've noticed this trend, Reciprocity's 25% critical hit chance. Riposte is 20% critical hit chance. Longshot is 10 up to 25% extra damage. Well, if you look, 25%, I'm sorry, that's not damage. Where is just a flat damage? Like this, 6% stacks 5 times, so about 30, 20% strength, 20% damage. Talents are on average in Darktide better than the tier 4 blessings you are putting on your weapons. If they are not strictly better than the blessings, they are at least very close to them. Very, very close. Rending Strike is 10% rending. What is the weapon equivalent? 24% per stack that stacks 5 times. Okay, maybe that's just an outlier. What is a ranged weapon equivalent? Let me just equip this, and let me show you some ranged weapon equivalents, just in case you think Uncanny is, like, overpowered in an outlier, which it is. But still, 60% rending. Okay, well, let's go to a weapon that's not commonly used. 12 stacks of 2.5% brittleness. So, like, 60% brittleness for the whole team, which is just rending for the whole team. Like, blessings are on average, I am not joking, giving 6 to 12 times. You could take Rending Strikes 12 times over. Your build could just be literally 50% of your talent points are just Rending Strikes. And it would then be on par with one singular tier 4 blessing. But then you look at every single other talent in the game. This is slightly better than a tier 4 blessing. You know, this is like on par with like a tier 3 blessing. This is on par with like a tier 4 blessing because it's chance and damage. You know, getting this toughness back. You look at like the Arbites. He's got like, or Glory Hunter, 30% toughness. Think about it. Glory Hunter's 30% toughness on elite kill. This is a total of 30% toughness on elite kill. So this is like as good as Glory Hunter. Every single talent on the tree needs to be at least as powerful as a tier 4 blessing. This is not even 1/10 as powerful as a tier 4 blessing, which really does tell you we should probably do something about Rending and Carapace armor because the entire system is just broken. Now, so for this to be on par with a tier 4 blessing, it would need to say gives 124, percent rending to all weapons. Does that like... it would need to say give 110% rending to all weapons or whatever. The point that I'm getting at is, does that sound even remotely good to you, like well-balanced? They would need to add another 0 behind this to make it competitive with the blessings. But if you just make all your weapons have 100% rending all the time, like, Veteran would be the best class in the game, and he would just absolutely dog walk every enemy in the game. Because that would convert to like a 40% flat damage bonus with Uncanny. And it's just like, the entire rending and armor system needs to be reworked from the ground up. Rending is either completely useless because it's in way too small of quantities. Let's put it this way. You see like these 10, 15% rending nodes? These are terrible. They're unusably bad. You can take rending strikes and chink in their armor and still not notice a difference on 90% of weapons. Again, so what, are you going to spend 2 talent points? Remember, every other talent point on the tree is equivalent to a tier 4 blessing. This is 2 talent points to be equivalent to 1 stack of 1 blessing, or 1 shot, hand cannon is 60%. This would be 25%. So you're spending 2 talent points to not even be half as effective as the ranged weapon rending talents, or 2 talent points to be as effective as 1/5 of a tier 4 blessing for a melee weapon. Do you see how these are just a horrible, horrible value proposition? And then look at this, 25 toughness. So look, I have 190 toughness. And because triple toughness curios are the meta, 25 toughness turns into 31 toughness real fucking quick. But I'm sorry, I lied. We were at 190 toughness, not 200. You didn't check me there. You believed me, didn't you? Get baited. Trollolololol. Anyway, I don't know what became over me there. What behooved me, my love. Anyway, all right, Tanner, shut the fuck up. You're getting a little too fancy with the poetry now. Anyway, point is, this 25 toughness with these curios takes us from 190 to 234. That is 40 fucking points of toughness, dude. And if you take this one as well, you skyrocket to almost... You have, like, more toughness than an Ogren fully dedicated to toughness does. And then you get, like, 30% here, 50% here, another 10% here or whatever. And it's like, oh yeah, and then you finally top it off with Shout. You get 323 toughness. Zealot Book push you into, like, 450 range. And then you're getting, like, 20-30% of that 450 back every single attack, and you're taking like 60% less damage on that toughness. Veteran is so ridiculously tanky right now. Giving up one of these toughness nodes for rending strikes is an asinine proposition. It's genuinely asinine. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's an insane idea. Anyway, so now let's look at a row where you generally don't take the 25 toughness because the other 2 nodes are just kind of better. So, Agile engagement. Oh, wait, hold on. Before I'm done talking about rending strikes, I just need to show you something. Okay, so remember this 221? And remember how with rending strikes, it's 2167, barely any difference? Well, let's take Agile engagement. Get 1 kill to proc it. That I killed a man. I'm a murderer. Okay, that was a crit. That doesn't count. 2533. Okay? So just taking any other damage node, it's like the equivalent of taking this like 4 times over. And if you're curious, for reference, now remember, this got like 280 something with Rending strikes. This got like 283 or 281 or whatever. 278! So even on a weapon with like no penetration on it, the tactical axe, just taking any other damage node is like, even on the weapons that benefit Rending strikes the most, any other damage node is either just as good or objectively better than it. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, so this is really good because this turns your revolver shots just across the board into things like one-shots. The idea here is you get a kill, and then that enhances this weapon to make it easier for this weapon to get a kill, which then, you know, further makes this easier to get a kill, and then you just keep bouncing back and forth between the two. This is really, really powerful because it's basically just a free 25% damage on demand whenever you need it. Skirmisher got hella buff, dude. Oh yeah, by the way, so this node used to be before, I think this node was before Serrated Blade, actually. And it was like right before this god-awful aura or something. It was either right before this aura or right before Infiltrate. I'd have to go back to one of the older videos to see. But this node, so that meant you could never really take this node. And it's something I always said when tier listing these nodes was that... Oh my god, I'm sorry guys, I don't know what happened there. Anyway, something that I always said is that this node is great, and theoretically you'd always take it if you could. Problem being, it's just so far out of the way, it's not worth 2 or 3 skill points to actually get the node. Skirmisher, so look at my buff bar. Skirmisher now procs, like, within a split second of sprinting. So, very, very, very easy to get this going and to keep it up. They also made the stacks last, like, 30% longer, and you only need to get 4 stacks. It also works on sliding, so when you're dodge sliding gunners, this now is giving you damage. So it's now directly giving you damage for avoiding gunners, which then when you get both of these damage buffs going, I mean, look at this. Like, let me just try to get a crit here with both of these damage buffs. The only thing that this perk really needs is you just saw all the stacks fall off at once. Fat Shark, you have been doing genuinely a great job of making stacks in this game fall off one at a time, which in my opinion is... Okay, can we get out of this? In my opinion, I think just about every stack in just about every video game should fall off one at a time. Fat Shark, if you make these stacks fall off one at a time, this will be like an amazing tier node. It's already something everybody takes. That's just one final pain point. Maybe make the duration like 6 seconds, but make the stacks fall off one at a time or something. So these two nodes are actually competitive with 25 toughness. Is 25% damage, because that's basically what both of these translate to, worth 40 toughness? Now, this is where building becomes interesting, because there really is no right answer for that. Holy shit, Tanner Lindbergh actually says there's no right answer for once. And that's really been the gist of these reworks. They took so many just obviously correct right answers and really made it so, like, they're both viable now. Before, and honestly, I think this is a big part of why people's perception of me is not the greatest, is because for so long, these trees were so shitty. It was like, oh, if you don't take this thing, you're just stupid. Because it's like, this one damage node is like, gain 50% damage. This other node is like, gain 5% damage sometimes, maybe if you pray to Umbasa on Sundays. And there were genuinely people that tried to make the argument that the 5% node is somehow better than the 50% node. And it's like, I'm sorry to, you know, be like, hey, this is stupid and you're kind of dumb for taking this. But that's genuinely just how these trees were laid out before. It was a thing, it was a case of, if you wanted to take this, you know, you couldn't take the other thing. And because you can't take the other thing, that is just strictly always better. You know, you see where I'm going with that? But now, like, across the board, it's pretty equalized. There aren't any... That was the thing. Darktide just had so many noob traps in it. There were so many like, oh, if you take this, you're dumb and just don't know how the game works. And I get how that comes off really poorly. I've been not doing it lately. But it's like, that really is just how the game used to be. It was like, oh, you took that node, you're dumb. You don't know that there's this hidden condition on the node that means it's not actually active half the time you do the thing it says it does. And then it's like, you know, then the node right next to it is like doing a thing. Look at Perilous Combustion on Psyker. Perilous Combustion, if you don't know that it overcaps stacks, why the fuck would you ever take it on like a flame build or something? Think about it. Why would you take Perilous Combustion when, you know, if you're using a flame staff that already maxes flame stacks in like a second? Oh, well, because it doubles the stack cap through it and it's like insanely overpowered. Game doesn't tell you that anywhere. It doesn't even explain what stacking is or that stacks get extra damage for every subsequent stack. So if you don't know that, it's like, what, are you stupid for not doing this? And honestly, that's something that I kind of had to realize, is that no, you're not stupid. The game is stupid for not telling you. I'm sure if you could make an informed choice, you wouldn't have made the dumb choice. Real shocking revelation from the Lindinator. Anyway, Shock Trooper's really good. Shock Trooper basically just boils down to like, do I still have it? No, because I don't like it. But you use this with a recon lasgun, which has this much ammo, this much fire rate, and all of those shiny numbers are crits. That node makes it so that all of those shiny numbers do not take ammo. And then you just like let the burn stacks kill enemies. You know, you just burn them up a little bit, and then you just let the burn, like, do its thing. So when you let the burn just do its thing, I'm feeling the burn, Bernie. Anyway, when you let the burn do its thing and you aren't getting ammo... Oh, here's another thing. Recon lasguns crit in bursts of 2. So if you've got, like, 20% base crit with a recon lasgun, and another 25% crit from Reciprocity, I think you see where I'm going with this. Like, when you crit in bursts of 2, you shoot, crit, get 2 crits, then roll crit again. So like, if you crit on that second shot, you know, or whatever, it's just like, this saves you a shit ton of ammo. You basically never have to stop shooting with this. Lock and load is kind of a joke. I'll just be real with you. So, like, we go from 180 to 207. But I need you to understand something, okay? Like, who cares? Okay, so this doesn't increase our total ammo or anything, like, fully loaded. So, like, look at this. We go to 207, but we're still at 1100 ammo. So, even in this weapon, which has literally the biggest magazine in the entire game. So, this weapon is affected more than every other weapon in the game. You only gain, like, 20 bullets. The only time this node is even moderately effective is with weapons like this. So, now we have 3 shots in this double barrel shotgun, which is stupid. I genuinely hate when games do this. But where this does matter is, let's say you're playing Weapon Specialist. With this node, now you can blast them like this, pull your weapon out, get Weapon Specialist going, get the free reload, etc. So if you're using the revolver or the double barrel shotgun, have fun, I guess. But literally outside of those weapons, you should never take this. Killzone's just kind of bad. 15%, if you're already at the point where you aren't getting meleeed for 8 seconds, just take Longshot. Because think about this. This activation condition of avoiding melee attacks for 8 seconds is kind of impossible to really upkeep unless you're literally just sitting on a ledge shooting things. And this 15% damage, well, this is now base 10% damage all the time. That can maybe sometimes give you more than 15%. So it's just, let's not spend this skill point like this. Let's just grab this, you know? Bring it down, I have literally nothing to say. It's just 20% damage versus Ogrins and Monstrosities. Except I do have something to say, because Rending Strikes is such a terrible fucking node. That's a crit. That we start outpacing it once we stack these damage buffs. I fucking hate Rending Strikes. Anyway, yeah, it's just 20% damage to bosses. Very good for cracks, though. Hold up. Let me show you guys something. Let me show you guys something real quick. Nope, that's not the button I pressed. Here, let me show you something. So, just with Grenade Tanker here, let's get a boss going. Come on, guys. Let's get some coherency going. So he goes from 52,000 down to 45,000. So he lost like 8,000-ish HP, 7,000-ish HP, something like that. But now, we take away Bring It Down, and... Excuse me, what the fuck? Hold on, what the fuck? Why did he take 45,000 again? Did we just, like, live discover that this node doesn't work on Beasts of Nurgle? Or in the Psychanium or something? Okay, well, I don't know what's going on with this, but I'm 90% sure this node works in-game. Hold on. Live in the field live with Tanner Lindbergh. So this guy has 60,000 health, 59,000. Okay, so that did 7,400. 7,488. Hold on, that did 7,488. Okay, how much are you gonna do? Okay, so on Plague Ogrins it works. Fat Shark, please fix. We just like live discovered this doesn't work on Burgles, I guess. Am I just stupid? You guys saw that, right? Right? He has 52,000 health. Fuck off. Hold on. Really? Okay. So he goes down to 45,000. 45,011. Okay, I guess 700 damage is 20% of 7,000. That's only 10%. Maybe it's just some kind of resistance. Whatever. Point is, 20% damage is nice when you're dealing like 7,000 damage. It's like an extra 1,400 damage, which is nice per grenade, especially if you get a double proc on the grenade. So, ignoring Burgles because of what we just saw, we're just going to throw 4 grenades at this guy. Okay, wait. No. So this guy took 22,000. This guy's down to 22,000 HP. Now let's do it again without the node. So he went down to 22,000 HP. Really hope we get a double proc here. Okay, and you can see if he took another 67,000, you know, you can see that the difference is pretty significant. Come here, motherfucker. Yeah, even a whole extra grenade doesn't really make up the difference. It's like, it's impactful. And once you start stacking things like focus target, it gets even more impactful. It's just nice because bosses and crushers are like the only real threats anymore. Onslaught has completely fallen out of the meta. Mostly because the weapons that benefit from Onslaught have also completely fallen out of the meta. And the increase in Crusher HP also kind of kills it. So look at this. That is terrible. Please don't do that. That literally just took 100 bullets to kill. Now, if we compare that to this guy has the same amount of HP that Crusher's used to. So, you see how that took like half of the ammo. Imagine that. Half the health pool took half the ammo. You know, a doubled number is in fact doubled. But when you kill these guys, you know, with like 2,200 DPS, it really makes this feel like shit. Killing these guys with 1,400 DPS, the math just doesn't check out anymore. It's just no longer worth it to try and stack up brittleness. And you can see if you try to use a quick weapon like the tack axe, it's okay, I guess. 1,500 DPS with the brittleness. Now let's just take like agile engagement instead. And wow, look at that. 1,500 DPS. You know what made the difference? Literal crit RNG. The amount of damage increase this node gives anything in the game other than like auto guns versus crushers can literally be chalked up to critical variance. Just getting like one extra crit is better than this entire node. And when you have 50% crit chance, Walt, seeming kind of sus lately. So if you have to choose between taking this or taking this, or this, well, sorry, but you're never taking that. Okay, now exploit weakness. Melee, this is one of Veteran's best new nodes. This node used to be dog shit. This node used to be, after a melee critical hit, gain 20% rending for 6 seconds. Who the fuck told you? I don't even know how to describe how awful that is. So, 20% rending is again less than 1 stack of Uncanny Strike. And remember, if a rending node doesn't give you at least like 30% rending, you know, why even bother? Unless you literally only do your damage through dots or whatever, you know? Then it's like, okay. This, however, is damage to everything. All you need is to get 1 melee critical hit and boom, 20% damage. Also, let me just kill this guy real quick to show you something. Wait, what the hell? Okay. I rest my fucking case. Just stacking these regular damage nodes that also affect your gun and also affect everything else is better than having Onslaught. Now, here's what it's like if you're curious what Onslaught does when you also have all these damage nodes. Holy shit, the dot keeps killing them. Okay. We go from 1600 to 2000 DPS, which is actually a noticeable improvement, don't get me wrong. But that's my entire point. To make this worth it, you have to take all this shit. And it's only worth it on weapons that attack very quickly and, you know, just aren't that great to begin with. Now we can make this do, like, acceptable damage, I guess. Really, the only reason you'd be using this is if you literally don't know, you have a point, you don't know where else to spend it, and I guess it's sort of also some damage for your team. I guess. Alright, let's talk keystones. Okay, Marksman's focus got buffed to hell and back. It now no longer forces you to stand still. It also doesn't take all the stacks away instantly. Those two changes have automatically made it a usable keystone. It's now, like, usable, I guess, if you actually care for its effect. Problem is, it's still, like, one of the, like, second or third worst keystone in the entire game, I'll be honest with you. Wait, let me think. Is it worse than Terminus Warrant? No, I think those two are about on par. It's not worse than any Psyker keystone. It's definitely not worse than any Zealot keystone. It's probably on par with Feel No Pain. Yeah, man, there's like a 3-way tie for the worst keystone in Darktide, and this is definitely one of them. It might actually still just be, like, the worst now that Lucky Bullet isn't literally unusable. Anyway, 7.5% finesse strength is basically nothing. 10% reload speed, fucking Lamau XD. If you couldn't get me to take 30% Todd Howard, I'm not buying Skyrim for 10% reload speed. Picking up what I'm putting down here? You couldn't sell me at 30, you're definitely not getting me at 10. So, 75% range finesse strength. If you're wondering what that shit actually translates to in, like, real human terms, 2078. Okay. So 2078, and now we stack this up. And look at this. Let's cool down first. 2476. Come on. Let me get rid of these blessings. Motherfucker. Alright, so 2414 as opposed to 2176. So that's a 200 damage difference. Wait, what? Hold on. This has to be a joke, right? You're memeing right now? Hold on. Come on, Marksman's Focus. Go away. So wait, we saw that, right? 2414 is the damage of Marksman's Focus. 2176, so that's 10% of 2000 is 200. So it's like a 12% headshot damage increase. That's nothing. That's terrible. Hold on. Do my eyes fucking deceive me like Mr. Krabs? Do my eyes deceive me? Motherfucker. Okay, no, so 2078. So it's a 400, so it's about a 20% headshot damage increase. That's what Marksman's Focus is. And then you add this and it's like a 25%. Or I'm sorry, it should be like a 30% headshot damage increase just about. Probably closer to like 26, 27. So yeah, it's about a 27% damage increase to headshots, which is okay, I guess. But like, you know, you're like already killing the things that absolutely need to be killed. This is like only extra damage versus like shit that doesn't really matter because you kill it in 2 shots with or without Marksman's Focus. If you think I'm being too harsh on Marksman's Focus, let me pop quiz you real quick. Let me hand out an assignment to the class. Name me one weapon that gains a new breakpoint where it takes 1 less bullet to kill an enemy with Marksman's Focus. No fully automatic guns. Those are not allowed for this test. Did you think of any? Probably not unless you've got like 3,000 hours in this game. Because the answer is basically nothing. Like, some DMRs gain some new breakpoints, but DMRs are still the worst weapons in Darktide. 15% rending. Sorry, Todd, you couldn't sell me at 1/12 of a tier 4 blessings effect. You're not selling me at 1/11 of a tier 4 blessings effect. Go fuck yourself. Long range assassin is just more of the good thing if you think this is a good thing. And tunnel vision is cool because it allows you to use Deadshot and sort of not lose all your stamina immediately. Sometimes if you're using the right weapon, I guess. Yeah, Marksman's Focus is still just really bad. It just turns out that no one really gives a fuck about range finesse strength. It's just not an important stat. There was a time when this was okay because there was a time, believe it or not, when the Columnus Mark V, or the Vrax, or whatever the fuck they call it now, was the best gun in the game. And you could use Marksman's Focus to spray down a horde to gain that like 30% headshot strength to then kill a boss 30% faster. That was legitimately valid and viable. The game was also much different back then. We do not play that game anymore. And that is just not a valid, like, dude, let me put it to you this way. Fucking Arbites has a keystone modifier that is just 30% boss damage. Period. It's just 30% boss damage all the time for all of his weapons. This isn't even a true 30% damage increase. So, let me get this straight. Let me just lay this down for you. Veteran has to work his ass off and get headshots to get a barely 30% damage increase for one of his weapon types. Arbites just gets that motherfucking thing for everything. And it's not even a keystone. It's a keystone modifier. Like, goddamn, imagine if Marksman's Focus just had imagine if this was replaced with 30% more damage versus monstrosities. You'd be like, oh, this is like 30% damage. This is another 30% damage. Oh, this is for like ranged boss killing, like with the bolter. Focus target is not bad, but it's kind of lost its place, my wayward son, just a little bit. So Marksman's Focus, or Focus target got buffed. At least I think it got buffed. Don't actually quote me on that, but I think the stacks used to generate every 2 seconds. I don't know why my brain is convinced that's the case. And no, I'm too lazy to go back and look, because if you're going to get bent out of shape over a 0.5 second mismemory on a keystone, you need to, like, actually get a life. Anyway, I think focus target got buffed. If it didn't, it's exactly the same. Problem is, the gamers changed around focus target. So this is actually not bad for bossing, I'll be honest with you, especially with cracks. Let me just spawn a bows real quick. So yeah, 10,000 damage cracks, especially with the ability to spawn 2 of them, pretty good. I mean, you can see we almost killed this boss just with grenades, and we didn't even have to pick any up. And you can also see how the follow-up dueling sword, if that wasn't the literal scrubbiest thing you've ever seen in your life, can also kill it really quick. Focus target is okay. 30% additional damage to one enemy at a time is practically useless outside of bosses. And 12% damage to your team is... it's nice. I'm not going to lie, it's nice. I kind of underrated this keystone a little bit, because outside of the crack, like, killer shit like this, it is a little bit bad. But it does also let you do shit like this. Which, honestly, once I figured that out, it's kind of all I've been doing in Havoc. Because basically, you just walk around, mark this guy, and you turn the power sword into the dueling sword that doesn't have the problem of hordes. So you get S-tier horde clear, even better single target than the dueling sword, and it's a nice complement to the plasma gun. Mark target's also just really nice for guaranteeing one-shots on things that just really gotta die, like badly. Let me build up some stacks for my blessings here. And you could now no crit, one shot to the body that stuff. Which, honestly, pretty good. I would say focus target and weapon specialist honestly are about even. Though, weapon specialist definitely has a way to shine far above focus target that I'll talk about. Target down is okay. Replenish 5% toughness and 5% stamina for each stack of target applied for you and your allies. This is nice. You just don't ever have, like, honest to God, I'm being completely honest to God, it's probably better to take this over this. Because if we just look here, 1374, and then we just look what, you know, if we just curious what difference this makes. Let me just lose the damage buff. Guys, I have dog whistle. Guys, I'm using the dog whistle mod. 1285, like, this is kind of terrible, and giving everyone on your team, like, 25 toughness every, like, 4 seconds. Oh, it's, you could make the argument, This is kind of mandatory, because this is, like, a 30% increase to your stacks. So, you know, it's not every day a keystone has a modifier that just says this, but 30% more of this. And redirect fire plus that is 12% free damage for the team. You might as well take it. Honestly, I would just change one thing about focus target. When you kill the mark target, the mark with all 6 of your stacks just, yoink, goes on this guy. And then, like, boom, it goes on this guy. And then, boom, it goes on the next guy. Because, like, right there, if I didn't get that crit, that guy wouldn't have died. Focus target is excellent when you have 6 stacks of it. However, it takes like 8 seconds to build up those 6 stacks. And with like 4 or less stacks, it's significantly less excellent. Yeah, it just exists in a weird area. The game is too fast-paced and they spam too much stuff. Look, if you need boss damage, take this keystone. It's amazing. If your team doesn't need boss damage at all, this keystone becomes a lot less amazing. Like, a lot less amazing. They really just need to make it... honestly, here's what I would do. Make this... just integrate this into focus target. Just make this have 6 stacks. And then make this modifier, when target dies, the mark with all 6 stacks jumps to... another elite or specialist within, I don't know, 8 meters or whatever. The closest one within 8 meters. It's just, the game spams. When they throw 30 crushers at you, does making one of them die quicker actually change the game? No, not really. And finally, we talk about weapon specialist and what makes this so good. So Weapon Specialist, I'll keep it brief and simple. Weapon Specialist makes you attack faster, and it reloads your gun for you. The end. So you get this, and now your weapon has ludicrous attack speed, which means even the dueling sword with its mediocre horde clear can actually do something. And now, when I build up these max stacks, look at how much ammo I restore. I forgot to take the motherfucking node. Okay, so let me just build these stacks up. And then you can look at how much ammo I restore off of this. And boom, 63. This is legitimately really powerful because the plasma gun has a 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi. It has about an 8 to 7 second reload. When you are in Havoc and you're out of ammo, but the wave's not done coming at you, those 8 seconds are agonizing. I'm aware my contemporary friend, Mr. E, my contemporary and good friend, because that's not what the word contemporary means. My pal Mr. E thinks you don't need this. To that I'd say, you know, ancient Japanese wisdom, fuck off. Because 8 seconds of reloading means a bomber. How many bombs can a bomber throw in 8 seconds? Good question. Let's find out. Because all it really takes is 1 or 2 bombers or 2 or 3 pups of a flamer smoke. Or, I'm sorry, a flamer fire. And you just lost like 80% of the space you can move around in. And now you're backed up against the wall and you're probably going to lose. Remember, the biggest thing that ends games are flamers and bombers. Nothing else. Okay, so Grenader. Fuck. Okay, let's turn invisibility off. Okay, so he gets 1 grenade. Okay, well, we can't deal with this. We just gotta reload, reload. We're still reloading. We lost the track of him. Okay, so, I mean, look at how much space this guy just ate up. Hold on. He just ate up from here to about, like, there. So, because of that need to reload, you just lost 13 meters of space by default. And so your team is scattered, your team is separated, people aren't able to fulfill their role anymore, and you have people fighting things that they really don't want to be fighting in a really small and cramped space, or they're just forced to lose like 20% of their health, if not more. Yeah, that's how you actually lose games. Okay, now what about a flamer? What about a flamer? Okay. Let's just see how much fire gets all over the fucking place. Oh, damn, yeah, and then you miss one. I mean, look at that. Like, that reload is devastating, and I promise you there are people that have lost runs of Havoc 40 because the veteran was mid-reload of the plasma gun, and an absolutely mission-critical specialist just didn't die. So, Weapon Specialist, the way it works is you get kills with one gun to buff the other weapon. And the way the reload works is the less ammo in your magazine, the more you get back for some reason. I mean, it does literally say that. It's 3% of your missing ammo, so the more ammo you're missing, the larger that number is. The bigger 33% is. You know, 33% of 100 is 33. 33% of 10 is 3. Quick maths. And, yeah. So, a weapon with a huge magazine like the plasma gun benefits the most from this. On your toes is great because, well, 20% toughness, you know, and this is 3-second cooldown for each. So, let's say you take this, right? Let's say you do this, and let's turn this back on. So now, you are fucking joking. Fucking. This is terrible. Nobody cares about stamina anymore, and stamina cost reduction is just not important anymore. Also, my weapon is massive now. I don't... Thank you, Fat Shark. Anyway, so basically, you do this, swap, 20% toughness. that 3-second cooldown ticks down. You get this kill, swap. By the time you swapped and gotten a kill, it'll have reset. So it's basically an endless loop of 20% toughness. Okay, there. Talents are done. Okay, so for melee weapons, it's just the dueling sword. And you set it up like this because it's the dueling sword. Of course it is. You build up all of your stacks of all of your bullshit. And then you just kind of like, if you crit, you kind of just one-tap the crusher. If you don't crit, you two-tap the crusher. Basically the exact same breakpoint it was before they changed the health bar. The power sword is really good, especially if you're going to be running the tag. Because the power sword, why is my tag not building up? Oh yeah, that's right, because we screwed builds all up for this. Yeah. This works. Okay, so now you get the tag. Well, I guess we should probably get a kill. So you get your kill, you get your tag. Then you go for this, and then you hope you crit, because unless you have exactly 6 stacks of the tag, you can't really one-shot consistently at all. But you can kill them with the 3rd hit every time, like this. Well, you know, assuming you don't fucking miss their head on the strike down, like the literal giganticus scrub over here. Yeah. Okay, there you go. When you stack up the blessings. Plasma gun and bolter are still by far better than everything else. And the recon, so the recon lasgun set up like this is good in a dedicated build for it. Plasma gun set up like this. Bolter set up like this. There you go. Also, Curios, toughness, revive speed, CDR, toughness. Revive speed got mega buffed. It now increases your everything speed. It makes it so pulling someone up, rescuing them, all of that shit is now affected by revive speed. And that actually does make revive speed like a genuinely super nice thing to have all the time. I think it's better than stamina. And, yeah. I think we're done here. That's basically everything you could want to know about the veteran, I think. Okay, now I get to cobble this crap together. Thank you, Darktide, for crashing. Battlefield 6 is coming out soon, so I don't know if I'll have the time to quickly make the other follow-up videos to this, but I'll definitely do Zealot, I'll definitely do Psyker, and if you're extra nice in the comments, and these videos get a lot of views, because that's the only thing anyone on YouTube cares about, I'll do probably Arborator as well.